Hi guys, this vlog is called Lainey's Story. Lainey's my daughter who was born on the 23rd of February in 2013, and she was born at, well, I was just over 18 weeks. She had passed away a few days previous. So this vlog is to give you the background story of basically what led up to that, and what happened with her birth and after that. So this is just dedicated to my beautiful little girl, Lainey May Denham. I was gonna write a list of all sort of bullet points and facts and things like that, but I'm just gonna give it a go of trying to wing it, see how successful that is. So I have to take myself back 2.5 years ago. So we had Ella, my little girl who's now 3.5, and she just turned 1 in November, and we had decided that we wanted to try for another child, and it happened pretty quick. It was like the start of December in 2012 that I got pregnant. I found out that I was pregnant, and yeah, we were just over the moon, excited, and everything was sort of as normal. The start of the pregnancy, sick as a dog, 24/7 for those first weeks. I think had my normal sort of say your 6-7 weeks dating scan. Everything looking great there, and then we had our nuchal translucency scan at 12.5 to 13 weeks with her, and we found out then that she was a girl. So we had picked her name very soon after that scan, so we were really excited to be expecting 4 girls. I think my partner had a bit of a pout for half a day, just sort of, because he did want a boy, of course. He was sort of hoping, but of course was very happy to be expecting a healthy little girl. So yeah, so I'd had 3 healthy pregnancies before her, so in my mind everything was just as per normal. I never for a moment questioned anything. I think you just sort of focus on the normal pregnancy symptoms, feeling like crap that first trimester, and then it's always sort of about the 13-week mark where I start to feel better. And yeah, I'm always tired because I have other children, so the tiredness never sort of left me. But yeah, so then basically everything was going great, and then just after 17 weeks, I was probably 17.5 weeks, in between that sort of time, that we went for a general checkup, and it wasn't my normal GP that I normally see, but it was just to check, I couldn't get into my normal doctor, so I just thought it doesn't really matter, it's the basic things. They just check your blood pressure, they check the Doppler with the Doppler, etc. So it didn't really bother me who I saw that day. So I went in there, and it was a lady doctor, and she said that she couldn't find the heartbeat. And I sort of, how some doctors, they sort of aren't too confident with Dopplers. And I just sort of thought, but that was still strange to me. So I couldn't shake the feeling like, because you get that spiel, sort of, don't worry, it's very early to, some doctors don't even start using the Doppler till after 20 weeks, etc. I had been feeling her movement from just over 13 weeks, but it wasn't consistent, obviously, when they're that little. But I know I had been feeling her not that many, that previous week, I do remember. So I did listen to my instincts, and I went to a second doctor that same day, and then said to them what had happened at the seeing a different doctor. They couldn't find the heartbeat. I just wanted to be reassured. So this was a male doctor in a different clinic, and he couldn't find the heartbeat either. And then I felt sick because he gave me the same spiel, sort of not to worry, they've got lots of room in there, that sort of thing. And then he said to me, I have my 20-week scan in a couple of weeks, or your 19 to 20 week morphology scan, not to worry. And my instincts were like, no, that's not right. You should be able to pick up the heartbeat, because at previous, even I think a couple of weeks before that, I'd been at the doctor's and they'd picked up the heartbeat. So for me, I just sort of went out of that appointment and didn't say to him, well, I'm going to go to the hospital. But that's what Mark and I chose to do. We went up to the emergency room and I said to them what had happened. We waited for a little bit of time, and then they brought us into, the little rooms that you go into, and told them what had gone on and that we were concerned. So they brought in one of those wheel-in portable ultrasounds that look like a little laptop, quite blurry picture, but yeah, so on that machine they put it on. I remember they put the wand on, and I couldn't really make out much, but I could see on their faces that they were quite concerned, and I could see that at the end of the bed Mark was getting quite upset. And I guess it's one of those moments where everything becomes very surreal very quick, and you just think, this is not right, this can't be happening. And I remember they said to me, we can't see any heartbeat, we can't pick up the heartbeat, and we're not seeing any movement. And they did say though that obviously this is, not a high-tech machine. We will get you in for an ultrasound at like a proper machine, which normally you have to wait. I can't remember how long we waited for. It was probably a couple of hours, maybe an hour. I don't think it was a couple of hours. But I think we already sort of knew. We didn't have a very good feeling about it, because even though those machines are basic, you can see on there if there's a heartbeat. They can pick it up pretty easy on there. So we went into the other ultrasound. It's one of the, the big ones where there's the big screen and everything like that, and confirmed that she had no heartbeat anymore, that she'd passed away. And it was just I don't know, it was just the most, it's like all of a sudden you're transported into like a dreamlike state. So surreal. Like, people use that word surreal all the time, but because I had never in my life had any problems in pregnancy, I was so blessed, and all of a sudden I was that someone that was thrown into, my baby was dead. And then I don't know, it's just so hard to grasp everything like that in the moment. And I remember when we were looking at her on that scan, and the technician measured her and had said that she had passed a few days previous from that moment, from when we were scanning, because he could measure her and say how many days she was, and it was only a few days off my date, so it was only happened a few days before. She had some fluid around the back of her neck and around her head, and he said to me that when there's like a problem with the heart, or the heart's struggling, say, then sometimes they can get fluid build up. So he sort of said about that. And then he had zoomed in on her heart. Like, obviously he took many pictures, but he zoomed in on her heart and he couldn't see any chambers. It was like her heart had collapsed. And he said that maybe there was a problem with she didn't have all the chambers, and I said to him, no, we saw it 12 weeks. I know definitely she had 4 chambers. We saw them. So yeah, so basically those were just, we weren't, yeah, besides that, we weren't in there very long. But after that, I remember I rang my mum and, you know, sort of, because obviously I'd been speaking to her leading up to going to the doctors, and to the hospital. After seeing the doctors, we were just going up to the hospital to try and reassure ourselves, I guess, because there's lots of doctors that just brush you off and they don't do everything they're meant to do. Either of those doctors should have sent me for a referral to a scan, at least for my own peace of mind. I think that the mother's peace of mind and mental sort of like state is really important in pregnancy. So yeah, I was let down by both those doctors, I believed, but I obviously had initiative and the instinct that no, I needed to go to the hospital. So I was really glad that I did that, because I'm sure there's lots of women that listen to their doctors, and I would have gone for my 20-week scan, and I possibly would not have had any symptoms to tell me that she had passed away, because I had no bleeding, I had no pain, there was nothing at that point to indicate. And I have heard of stories where women have waited even 6 weeks for their baby to pass in second trimester, when the baby's passed, for your body to recognise. So, you know, I couldn't think of anything, well, I can think of things worse, but I could imagine you're so excited to go to your 19-20 week scan to see your baby, find out what the gender is, possibly if you hadn't already, and they tell you that your baby's already passed away weeks before. So anyway, so I can try and not make this video too long, but obviously it is it's not a short story. But anyway, so basically I remember the doctors coming to us afterwards, telling us, we were obviously extremely upset, so in shock, scared, didn't know what was going to happen, just so confused and so upset, and so just very, very in a surreal state. And they said to me that we could go home, and we didn't have to do anything or make any decisions that day, which I think is good, because you are in shock. You need to get your mind around what you've just been told, because like I said, we were going there just to put our mind at ease that our baby was okay, and that those 2 doctors just didn't know how to use the Doppler. So they told us, though, that our options were to come back, that even in a couple of days or whenever we wanted to be induced, because obviously at that stage the baby is too big to have any other sort of method to have your baby. And for me, I didn't think, like, that sounds, I know a lot of people said to me, that must be so horrible to be induced and give birth to a baby at almost 18 weeks, but I couldn't imagine them sort of taking her out by a D&C or anything like that. Yeah, for me, I just never, if that was an option, I wouldn't have chosen that anyway. So we went home, obviously, and we were so devastated, you know. I remember it was a Thursday. It would have been the 21st. Yeah. Because my eldest daughter, Taylor, was having her 11th birthday on the 23rd, on the Saturday. And my big girls, like I've explained in a previous vlog, live with us every other week. And it so happened this was a week that they were not with us, and I didn't want to tell them, because it was my daughter's birthday. I remember thinking, I don't want to upset her before her birthday. You know, I remember talking to her stepmom and her dad, and saying, just tell the girls that I'm up the hospital getting scans or something, because I remember that we'd had plans for her birthday, that I was coming. I think it was that they were having the party at her dad's house, and obviously we were going, and why I couldn't come, we didn't want to tell them all the information up front, so we just told them that I was in hospital and I was just having some checks and things, and sort of downplayed it a bit, because I just thought, oh, I don't want to ruin her birthday, you know. So we had a day, I remember we came home that night, and then we spoke about, it was weird, it was just came into my mind. I said to him, what are we going to do when she's born? Like, I guess you've got options. When a baby's born before 20 weeks, they're not supplied with a birth certificate. They're not, yeah, it's sort of one of those things that when we sort of did a little bit of research about it, and asked the hospital if we wanted to do anything, it was going to be something that we would choose to do on our own accord. So we spoke that night what we wanted to do, and the hospital had offered that if we wanted them to take care of her after she was born, that all they offer is a group cremation, where babies that are born at those sort of gestations, they have a group cremation, and they have a garden at the hospital where they scatter the ashes. But that just did not sit well with us at all. Like, that's fine if that's what other people wanted to do, but for us, I said to Mark, we'll get her cremated and bring her home back to us. So very surreal conversations to have, when I remember walking past the mirror that night and, sorry, still seeing my stomach, and yeah, it's a really tough thing to know that your baby's still inside you, but she's passed away. And because they did say to us, we could take as much time as we wanted. There was no risk of infection if we were to wait even like a week. They'd sort of said, look, 2 weeks is sort of where they would like us. Yeah, they sort of did give us that time frame. But for me, it was, it's not creepy, but it's sort of a very upsetting feeling to see your pregnant stomach and know that your baby's already passed away, and you look pregnant and you still feel pregnant, and obviously I still had the pregnancy hormones. My whole body had not recognized that she'd passed away. So I don't know, for me, I knew that wasn't going to be a healthy thing for me to continue on mentally, to have her stay with me, as much as I didn't want to let her go. Yeah, I said to Mark, no, we'd go the next day to be induced. And so what we did was, the next day we spent, a lovely friend of mine took Ella and had her for the time that I had to go to hospital, because it's tough when we don't have family here. Like, Ella she was too little to understand what was going on, which was made it a little bit easier. So basically we went to the funeral home while I was still pregnant. This is what we chose to do. We went to the funeral home, and they were a lovely funeral home, and we spoke to them about what our wishes were, and we told them that we were going to be induced, and we told them that our daughter Lainey, we wanted her to be cremated, and we chose a beautiful box for her. I can show it to you, it's here. This is what we chose for her. So yeah. It's got our precious baby girl, Lainey May Denham. It's got her birthday. So this is what we chose for her. For us, it was just, we decided, I said to Mark, I don't think I'm going to be strong enough to go afterwards to choose everything. So that's why for me it was better to go. It was really upsetting, of course, but I didn't want to have to be going to a funeral home after I'd given birth. So that's just what we decided to do, and everything was set up so that the funeral home would take care of her after she was born. So we got to the hospital on that Friday, the 22nd, in the evening, and they were fantastic with us. We spoke with a social worker, and we also asked for another scan. I guess we just could not, like the medicine that they were about to insert to me would bring labour on. So for Mark and I, we just had to, I know that mistakes can happen. Doctors are not perfect. We'd had 2 scans, I know that, but in our hearts we had to see one more time just to make sure that she definitely had passed away. And I don't regret doing that. They didn't question us one bit, so we did that, and they had put the medicine in. It was probably about 8 o'clock that night, and then it's something that they insert every few hours to dilate your cervix. And I was not in any pain with Lainey that whole night. Mark and I, we sort of through the night, we sort of dozed on and off and just talked, and the whole thing's still so surreal. It's really weird. It's sort of like, even though it was such a sad moment, there was a tiny part of you that's still, not excited. It's hard to explain what word would be the right one to use, but we knew we were going to see our daughter. We knew that it wasn't how we had wanted it to be, but we still knew we were going to get to hold her and meet her in a sense. We were really nervous. We did Google before we went to hospital, which is probably, I don't know if it's right or not, but I guess we wanted to prepare ourselves of what a baby of that gestation looks like, especially when they had passed a few days previous. So the next morning, it so happens the timing was that Saturday was my daughter's birthday. And I remember speaking with her, and it was about 7:30, and I'd had no pains, nothing. And I remember I was speaking to her on the phone saying, "Happy birthday, sweetie, I'm so sorry I couldn't be there," and things like that. And then I started feeling the first pains, and I sort of got off the phone pretty quick then, because I was quite scared quite quickly then, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And then I kicked into full labour. I was on the gas and air, and it was quite quick after that. Half an hour she was born. Like, it was intense, but it was over quite quick. And so she was beautiful. Of course I don't look like normal babies. Their skin's quite red. They, like I said, she had a little bit of fluid behind the back of her head and behind her neck, but I guess from a parent's eyes, and she was perfect to us. It was extremely hard though. Mark was very, very emotional, where I tried to be strong and not cry too much after she was born, because I just thought I needed to be strong for him. And he was, I don't know, I guess I felt like both of us couldn't be upset, but which is silly. I don't know why I thought that, but in the moment though, it's funny. Even though she was not what she was meant to look like, or the gestation, her hands and her feet, they're absolutely beautiful. They're so, because everything's formed, everything's perfect. She was 19 centimeters long. I should have had a look. Had it out. She was just under 200 grams. So of course she didn't weigh too much, but the length, yeah, she was. I remember when we chose this box and I measured it, the top from here to here was how long she was, and so that's why I love that box as well. We held her, obviously Mark held her. We didn't get a chance to hold her for too long because my placenta didn't come out. I was warned that it would possibly, it's a 50-50 chance when you are at that gestation that the placenta will not come away, and I tried, but it did not, and then I actually had a doctor try and manually remove it, and it was the worst pain ever in my life. So after they could not get it out, I had to obviously go to theatre to remove it. So it was weird. It was like, I look back now and there's things that I would have changed things, but at the time Mark and I, we'd never been through anything like that, so we trusted the doctors and the nurses and things like that. So obviously I chose to be put under while they removed the placenta, and when I came out, I was in a different room and Mark was there, and I asked for them to bring her back to me. She wasn't in that room. I'm not sure where she was put. She was, obviously they put the babies in one of the bassinet, those clear bassinet things that they put the newborn babies in, and we had her wrapped like we'd chosen that day before we came in. Went and got 2 blankets, identical, and 2 teddies, and we'd had a plan that we would have her cremated with a teddy and have a blanket, her cremated in a blanket, and then also have one to take home that was the same. So yeah, so she was, I remember I kept saying to them that I want her brought back to me, because I only got, like, it was really half an hour after I'd had her that I started bleeding excessively and I had to go to theatre, and she was put somewhere and it wasn't where Mark was. I don't know why, but I remember saying to them and asking the nurses, and they said, oh, that they needed the right person to bring her back. It was sort of confusion. I couldn't understand why it was taking so long, and you know, I sort of, I don't know, you've just been through such a horrible experience, so you're not really up to being sort of quite forceful or anything like that, but it took a few hours for her to get brought back to us, and in that time she had deteriorated a little bit, because I think she wasn't like kept somewhere that would preserve her, I guess, a cool, yeah, like I don't want to go into too much detail there, but I could understand, from my understanding, yeah, she was just put in a room somewhere, in her little bassinet. So yeah, when they brought her back to us, it was a little bit upsetting because, yeah, she had deteriorated a little bit, because their little bodies they're not, their structures are not hard, like their bones aren't hard bones. Their structures inside are not really hard formed to what they are when they are like later in pregnancy or full term. So obviously, like, outside of being, you know, in the amniotic fluid and things, yeah, changes happen. So when we saw her, we just sort of wrapped her up and said goodbye to her. And then then she was taken, and then we just, because we had already had the funeral home arrangements in place, we didn't have to worry about where she was going to go or what was going to happen or things like that. They had taken care of all that for us, which was yeah, a really good decision, I think. So I ended up staying in an extra night, and then the next day I went home, and I remember it was really hard leaving that hospital, knowing that she was still in there somewhere. And that I remember walking out and looking up at the big building and just being so upset, and just I felt so empty, and she was there. She shouldn't be in there. She should still be in my stomach, being like growing, and it was really rough. So, you know, we went home, and obviously we had to tell our daughters, and they were heartbroken. And now it's like every year the 23rd of February is a tough day, because I've got my daughter, my eldest daughter, it's her birthday, and it's also Lainey's birth and passing. Like, if I could rewind time, I probably would have waited a day at home, but at the time I didn't sort of anticipate. I just sort of thought, oh no, we need to go, but if I could reverse time, I'd wait a day just so that they have their own separate days, because even just this year it was rough. It's been 2 years, I had a rough day. I was really upset, still grieving her on that day, and then I had to pull it together and be happy because my daughter was turning 13 and having birthday cake and celebrating and things like that. So it's a really mixed emotional day, and it will be for the rest of my life. But my eldest daughter, we blow out a candle on her cake sometime, and I think the year before we even got Lainey her own cake. So yeah, we have our little things that we do. And my daughter, she sort of thinks it's like a blessing. She goes, you know, I always get to share that day with her. So yeah, I think for me it's tough, but I try not to focus on the negative on that day, and try, because I don't want her to miss out on having as much as she deserves on her birthday. She hates to see me upset, but she could understand why. But yeah, so that's a little bit of a hard one, that one. So so basically, after we had her, we had the tests done, and it's probably maybe 6 weeks out that I had my hospital appointment, and they could not find anything wrong with her or me. They did tell us that her heart had collapsed, so there was a little bit of confusion, and it's sort of like, and if you listen to Jack's story, I'll go into more about this, but we were under the impression that there was a problem with her heart. But after now just talking to specialists, a baby of that gestation's heart will collapse, even if there's something like, say, another reason for their passing. Ultimately, if your heart is what will stop, that's how we all end up passing. And when a baby is of that gestation and their structures are not as hard as they would be at full term, things will start to collapse and deteriorate. So Mark and I guess, were under the impression that she had a problem with her heart, but it's not the case. We were thinking that for the last couple of years, but have found out that no, what they saw on the scan is something that will happen to babies at that gestation. So anyway, so we had a balloon release a week after she was born. I don't know how we did that. I look I look back and I just think, I think I was still in shock and still in, like, I don't even know. Like, I just, yeah, because my mum came up just after she was born and she was there for that. And I didn't even know how I had the strength, really, to be honest. Like, whether I was still just, I don't know. I just, now I think how that happened, I don't know. We just kept going, and then we waited like maybe a cycle and we were trying again. I think in my mind and in my heart, and like I had a hole that was, I felt so empty, and we were expecting a baby and we were excited for a baby. So my natural instinct was to start trying to conceive again, and Mark wanted to as well. And we did get pregnant with Evie, and it was only like 3 months gap. So I thought that was something that would make me feel better, and it did to some degree, but it was also a very, very hard experience, and I'm going to do a vlog about that, because I didn't realise that how separate those babies are. I wanted a baby, yes, and I'd lost a baby, and I was pregnant with another baby, but I was grieving Lainey through my entire next pregnancy and then even afterwards. So I'll go into more detail about that in the separate vlog that I'm going to do next about Evie's pregnancy and dealing with grief. So I'll just I know this vlog's really long. I'll quickly show you just a couple of things. On her anniversary, her 1 year anniversary of her birth and passing, I made this for her. I'll try and get the whole thing in. So it's her little footprints. It's quite hard to get footprints because their skin's so delicate and they're so tiny, but we were quite lucky to get some, because her feet were perfect, but the skin's so delicate. Sometimes the nurses say that sometimes you get good prints, sometimes you don't. And then also I've got here, it's her little hand on my finger, so it shows how tiny she was. And it's in black and white because her skin was quite red, and it can be, I guess, quite confronting for some people. But you can see she had little fingernails, and yeah, I really treasure that picture because she's holding my hand. Yeah, so this is just something that I made for her anniversary. It's really special to me, and I've just got 2 other things that I just wanted to show. This is her bear. This is Lainey's bear. When we went to, before we went to the hospital, before I got induced, we went to a baby shop that we had gone to many times. It's a family-owned business, and we were buying the blankets and the bears to take, and we told them what had happened, and the lady knew us, and she was obviously heartbroken for us, and she gave us this bear and another bear that was cremated with her. So yeah, this is our, everyone calls it Lainey's bear, so this is her little bear. And then my sister, my oldest sister, is an amazing woman. She has experienced a loss at 20 weeks, a little boy called Mitchell, and she is a very giving and thoughtful person, and she knows my pain personally, going through a similar experience, and she made this. It's cross-stitched. This is one of the most important things that in my life that I own. It's really precious to me. I wrote something on Facebook, a little poem that I wrote. I just, you know, sometimes you want to vent things on Facebook, that I wrote this, and she saw it, and she cross-stitched this and sent this up to me, so I'll read it out. So at the top she's got Lainey May Denham, 23rd of February 2013. It says, and it reads, "They said your heart was broken, and that's why you went to sleep. So small but so perfect, but you I could not keep. I heard the angels call you, despite my prayers to stay. They blessed the wings upon you, then was time to fly away. Your name was up in heaven, Lainey May they had to call. Now you bless us always, a guardian angel for us all." So that's something I wrote for her, and she's got your mum Tammy down the bottom, little butterflies. So yeah, so we've got a box of things for her, just some little things. The hospital gave us lots of beautiful things, lots of little, like they have little handmade baby clothes and things like that, tiny little crocheted things that people donate. So yeah, we had a couple of things that we'd bought for her, and yeah, over the last couple of years we've put little things in there. So yeah, we sort of have a few things that are hers, and yeah, so that's basically the story of my birth and with my daughter Lainey May. Sorry that it's really long, but yeah, it's one of those stories that it's tough. It's really tough, but she's really precious to us. We cherish her like she's my daughter. Her sisters talk about her all the time. Yeah, it's hard. Like, obviously I've got her ashes here with me, and I couldn't wait for the day that it was probably about a week out after she was born, just before that, yeah, just for a week, that we got those. And to have her home, I know it's just her ashes, but to have her back home gives me a lot of comfort. Yeah, so that's Lainey's story. I'm happy for any questions in regards to it. I'm sorry it went on so long, and I'm sorry if I was a little bit all over the place, but yeah, I just wanted to just speak from the heart and tell you my experience. But if there's anything that you think that maybe I missed out, or any other bits of information you'd like to know about it, just send me a message, and I'm very happy to reply to any of those. So thank you very much for listening. Bye.